welcome to the Time Marie Show, where we keep it real on the mic, making inspiring choices. Today's guest is my spiritual father, a pastor, a husband, a mentor, and a songwriter, Pastor Shaman Scales Sr. Hey, Pastor.
Hey, 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 hey.
How are you?
I'm great. I'm doing wonderful. Doing wonderful.
Great. Well, first, I just want to say thank you for being a guest on my show. It means a lot to me. And I know that you can inspire many people. And so I just want to interview you. It can be a variety of things since the episode is weighing in on scales from your personal life to pastoral. And so I'm just going to interview you and see where we go from there.
Awesome.
Great. Well, Pastor, many of my viewers know who you are, but some of them don't. Could you let us know who is Pastor Shaman Scales Sr.?
Sure. I am a husband, Brittany Scales. I have 5 children, and I am a servant of God. I've been serving God all my life in the capacity of preaching. This would be 22 years that I've been preaching the gospel. I pastored all my adult life, senior pastored all my adult life, and I'm a fun person. I love to have fun. I love music. Music is, I like to say that preaching and pastoring is my calling, but music is my passion. And I'm a pretty fun guy. I would like to think so, but yeah, that's about it.
Well, you wear many hats, Pastor, and it's just amazing how you're able to uh, maintain your many roles and still be the best pastor that you are. Um, you got your calling at a young age. Could you tell the viewers what or who inspired you at that age?
Um, I had a very interesting household where I was my dad was president of my life, but I was raised by a single mother, but I was raised in a very, very um, I, I would like to say like this, a house of servants. So my granddaddy was the chairman of the deacon board. My grandmother was mothers, over the mothers on the mothers board. My auntie was the minister of music. My mother was over the youth department later on. My mother became the co-pastor of the church. So I was raised around female preachers. I'm actually the only male, or the first, let me say that, the first male preacher in my family. So I had a very unique situation. And then, of course, Bishop Calvin Lockett, who was my pastor all throughout my life growing up. And then, who I announced my call under, a man by the name of Pastor R. Lewis Leaks Jr. And later on, and then there's somebody that a lot of people probably don't know. I publicly have said this, and I've said it um, to him many of times. One of my major influences was a man by the name of Pastor Briannis Mitchell. He is in Nashville right now, and he's actually my cousin now by marriage. But growing up, I had never seen anybody that young with the swag he had, the style of preaching he had, and I wanted to be just like him. But then also there is, I like to call him the greatest of all time, Bishop Morton, who early on in my life, I like to say if I was a Kobe Bryant, he'd be my Michael Jordan. And while other kids had basketball, football players on their wall, I had a picture of Bishop Morton on my wall. That's a fact. And the awesome thing about it is now where I am in my life and how close I've gotten with him and how he's become a father to me is just kind of full circle. So that's kind of my story of mentors.
Wow. So definitely not like most kids growing up with influencers like basketball players, football players. You were inspired by a pastor. And that's just inspiring, especially for those young and old who are looking to pursue that. Um, I know when me and my husband was under you in Jackson, it's not easy, as you would say. It's not easy at all. Um, But I just want you to tell the viewers, at what moment, or point in time in your life did you realize you were going to preach?
Um, to be honest, I always knew it. It was something that I was baptizing teddy bears and stuff like that. It's just something that I always knew. Um, and it was something that I think that everyone knew. I'm strangely, my birth was prophesied. Um, I had a uncle named Pastor Sam Berry, Sam Berry Jr. He's a legend in Detroit. He passed not too long ago. And he prophesied to my mother when she didn't even know she was pregnant. Said, "You're going to have a son, and he's going to be a prophet." So they all knew. But I think I knew it um, for sure when I was about 8 or 9. I began to have certain dreams, but I just kind of knew it in my knower. And my dad especially, and my mom, and some people, they were kind of like, you might want to wait, because of your age and different things like that. And now I understand why they were like that. But my grandmother is the one that kind of spoke up and said, if he's called, y'all ain't gonna be able to stop him. And so it's just something I kind of always knew.
Yes. And that's interesting, because when we were in Jackson, before we even had CJ, you had told us that there's going to be a girl born in our family, and we were to name her Anaya. Um, so I understand that part of your story. And it's interesting because people always say, they'll mispronounce her name, Anijah. I was trying to be different and spell it differently. And they say, "Did y'all plan for her?" And we're like, "No, actually, our pastor, Pastor Sherman Scales in Jackson, told us that there would be a girl born, and to name her Anaya.
That's
Um,
right.
and her name means God answers." I can't say she's upholding what her name means, but she has given us a run for our money, most definitely. But it's just, um, it kind of scared me, especially once we had CJ. I was just like, not sure if I want any more kids. And, Cam's like, no, we're having another one. We're having another one, type thing. So it's like once she came, I can say for me, I can't speak for my husband, but for me, um, my not my passion for God, but like I don't even know the word for it. It changed. It made me I can't even think of the words, the right words to say, but it made me stronger, I guess, in that
Yes,
area, just to be given some words and then live it out. It's just simply amazing. And I always tell her all the time, "You're a gift from God." And of course,
yes,
she's only 3. "What does that mean, Mama?" And I just say, "Just remember, you're a gift from God." So she keeps us on our toes,
that's
um,
right.
just trying to, you know, parenting. That's a whole different story, which
Oh,
which we both know. But I tell people she's something different. She was created to keep us 5 steps ahead of what we're actually going, because every day is something new and it's something different.
yes.
So, um, I just want you to tell the viewers, like you mentioned, Bishop Paul Morton. You mentioned other pastors. Who is your biggest influencer and why?
Oh, that's a amazing question. Um, my greatest inspiration is my family, but as far as influence, I have to say in this season, I have to say Apostle Matthew Stevenson. And he has amazingly when we first met him, me and my wife had just got married. So it's amazing kind of how God has shaped um, our lives um, the way He has. And even now in this season of us connecting with all nations once again and doing this church plant thing, I see a shift in not necessarily just my spiritual walk, but even my natural relationship with my family, my wife, my children. And at this point in my life, that's the most important thing because one of the things that I've learned is if you do anything as far as a gift long enough, you'll get good at it. And so I would like to think that I'm decent at preaching, but I should be if I've done it for 22 years. Um, music, I've been doing it all my life. I should be okay at it by now. But family is something, and living and marriage and all of that is something that you don't ever kind of figure out. You never figure that out. It's something that you kind of walk through. So I think it is important to have someone of high stature, or you can see that example from a high place or a high position, and he's been that example for us. So I have to say, probably now, Apostle Stevenson is most definitely probably my biggest influence right now.
Yes, and so you that you mentioned Apostle Stevenson with All Nations. Just let my viewers know a little bit more about All Nations and what you have going on with that.
Okay, so I pastored in Jackson for 9 years, and this whole move was a God move. If my wife was sitting here telling you, we actually had there was some other plans on the table to move or not move, but actually to stay where we are and do something with All Nations, and and one day we were on a Zoom call, and Apostle Stevenson just and I always say it like this because I can vividly see him doing it. He looked up in the sky and was like, "Have you ever thought about moving to Florida?" And I was like, "No." It never crossed my mind. Yeah, the vacation, but besides that, no. And but from that moment on, this area kind of got in our spirits, and it's been a complete faith move. We came here and we didn't know anybody or anything, and literally God took us. It was an Abraham experience that he would we would go to a land that he would show us, and but we have seen the hand of God in miracle signs and wonders in our own lives just by being here. Just the way that the people have gathered and different things, it's just been amazing. And I'm just so grateful to God for the opportunity that has been given to me and afforded to me to be able to do this. So I went from Jackson to Jacksonville, and I don't mind. The heat is a little different here, but I don't mind living not too far from the beach.
I understand, Pastor. Can't you can't compare that to just living beside street signs and another building. Having the beach just right there is probably every person's
Yeah,
dream. Um, so exciting. I know my family, once we saw y'all broke the news on social media, it we screamed in our house like, "Yes, yes. We love it." And you I know um Jacksonville is far away from a lot of your spiritual kids.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if they thought how me and my husband thought, but our immediate thought was we got to get down there. We have to go visit. We have to, you know, honor the man of God because this is amazing, for him and his family. A big step, but simply amazing. So now that we've been dealing with this crazy pandemic, um, a little over a year now. I mean, it's changed the lives of just normal people. As a pastor, how has the pandemic changed the way you do things?
It's changed everything. It's changed. I think every leader um was faced with um their norm being broken. If you think about it this way, um, if you probably told somebody 10 years ago what's hybrid church, what I mean by hybrid is maybe half of your congregation will be online, half of your congregation will be in person, or you would tell me that some of the people that you would pastor over the last year would be people that you've never physically met. It's different, but not only that, it's the urgency of people having to hear from God. I believe that we are in a time to where people that are believers are literally hanging on to the word of the Lord. Like that's all we got. Literally, I mean, that's all we have is God's word and what He's saying, because that's the only thing that seems stationary, or not just stationary, but seems constant and sure, because we've learned that at a moment's notice things could be shut down, jobs could be lost, lives could be lost. So I believe it puts a holy pressure on the man or the woman of God to make sure that you're hearing from God, because there are people that are watching and listening to you, because they got to hear what God has to say, because they have an urgent situation as far as provision, urgent situation as far as physical ailment. So it really has changed the course of the way we do church and the way leaders lead. And I honestly believe that um, we will look back years from now, and what is the norm for the future will be because of what we've went through during the pandemic.
And I totally agree, Pastor. I shared with um, my pastor and First Lady, Pastor Roderick, and First Lady Angela Davison. You know, it's kind of like the pandemic hit, and those that were in halfway in the church and halfway out of the church, it kind of washed them away. You
Yes.
know, to kind of put church by the wayside. And we were just talking about like this pandemic created the opportunity for us to have time. Um a lot of us would say, I don't have time to do this, or you know, I'm too busy to do this. I feel like the pandemic gave us that opportunity to make
Yes.
time, especially for God, to spend more time with your family. I know a lot of couples say, I have really learned a lot about my spouse during this time
Mhm.
because they're having to eat, sleep, and work in the
Yeah.
house. So it has changed the lives of many people,
No
young
doubt.
and old. And it's just now is the time that people should have used the pandemic to get closer to God, to get to know Him, and to get under someone that can lead them, because this pandemic has brought depression and
Yes.
anxiety to
Yes.
many people. And if you're not under someone that can help pull you out of that, it, it's like, what do you do?
Yes.
Where
Yes.
do you go from there? So young and old is my viewers, and I know a lot of our friends, we look up to you, Pastor, and we honor you and we thank you for everything that you've done. What advice would you give to the people that are still struggling through the pandemic, whether it's depression, um, not being able to bounce back from what they lost, um, just trying to cope with the new norm, as many of us call it? What advice would you give them?
Um, my advice firstly would be assess the fact that God is with you because of what you survived. I'm quite sure there are everybody that's had a couple of things this past year that easily could have just made you quit, forget about life, don't want to do anything. But the reality is, you're still here. Number one. Number two, I believe that people that have really kind of embraced the time of the pandemic and what's been going on just to have, you know, um, time to themselves. There's a lot of creativity, a lot of things to accomplish and finish, and things to do um, that were realized during the pandemic. So I think that what you have to do is you have to find the purpose in it. Like, okay, God, we all have gone through the pandemic, but what should this pandemic have done for me purpose wise? Right? What has this pandemic shown me? What has this pandemic shown me about my family? Things I need to develop in. I've learned this in every situation. It is a lesson. Life is a classroom. It's educational. So I think that sometimes we are so caught up in what's happening to us that we miss what God's trying to do through us. So I think that you have to put yourself in a place of asking, okay, what are you trying to do through me during this time? Because if you've survived it, there's a reason you're here and there's a purpose behind it.
Viewers, I don't know if he inspired you, but he inspired me. Life is a classroom. I didn't
Yeah.
even think about that, Pastor. That's you just when you said life is a classroom, I thought about changing classes, changing going through the different changes
Yes,
of life. That's so inspiring, and I will remember that
it's the
forever.
classroom. It's the
Yes. Pastor, so we've talked about many things, and of course, as always, you've inspired the viewers. Um, but your friend told me to ask you about your favorite food, meatloaf.
First of all, Cam, all of them know. I told them, if you just ever just instead of just saying you hate me or you can't stand me, all you have to do is cook meatloaf. I actually believe meatloaf is what they serve in hell. I really believe that. I cannot stand meatloaf. I literally I hate meatloaf so much that my grandmother would stall if she cooked it. She would make sure that like she stalled for days because even if it's like 2 days after, I could smell that she cooked it, and I would not even walk in the house. I can't stand it. They know that I can't stand it. Ugh.
I had to ask. I don't know if Cam has shared with you, but meatloaf, macaroni and cheese, mashed potatoes, and green beans is one of my favorite meals.
I'm praying for you. I don't know how. And you know what? I don't know. My mom said that when I was a little boy,
Hmm.
that I would eat it. So there's something that had to have happened. I don't know what happened, but I like to this day, like I told my wife, you don't have to tell me you want a divorce. Just let me come home and some meatloafs on the table, and I'll just start packing my things. Because I know like it's over.
It's
you don't
over.
want you don't want me
Well, Pastor, I just want to thank you for letting me interview you today. And as I mentioned earlier, there are a few of our viewers who um, you're new to them. They're just meeting you on my show.
there.
Could you just let them know how they can keep in touch, your social media handles?
Of course, it's Shaman Scales Senior is my Instagram, and you can look up my name, just Pastor Shaman Scales or Shaman Scales through the search on Facebook, and both of my ministry page and personal pages come up. And also to check out more of what we're doing, um, especially concerning the church and things like that, you can go to All Nations Jax, JAX.com, allnationsjax.com. and you can check us out there. And yeah, it's some exciting things coming up. I'm like really pumped about it. So you want to keep up with what we're doing, because we're going to really do some really cool things within these next upcoming months.
Well, you heard it, viewers, how to keep up with Pastor Shimon Scales Sr. Thank you again, Pastor, for letting me interview you today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, viewers, this is our episode of Weighing In on Scales with Pastor Shimon Scales Sr. He dropped some amazing nuggets. One that stuck out to me and I will remember forever is during the pandemic, um, think about your life. It's like a classroom. Changing classes, you go through the changes in life. Thank you again for tuning in to the Tamari Show, where we keep it real on the mic, making inspiring choices.